Hi everyone, and well done again for finding the video. This week we're going to do a bit of a recap of some of the areas of the curriculum that we've not covered for a while. Sequences, we're going to have a look at fractions in context, and we're going to do some angle work. And this is the Aiming Higher video. First of all, sequences. Sequences exist when there's some kind of a pattern between the numbers that are presented. So in the first example, we can see the sequences we're going up in sevens. And so to work out the next number, of course, I'll just need to keep that pattern going and extend the sequence. 23. Equally, if I look at it the other way, I'm going back in sevens. So again, I could complete the sequence in that way. Now, it might be in some sequences are presented differently. For example, it might be I have to count there's 1, 2, 3 jumps between that gap of 12. So I need to split the gap of 12 up into equal jumps of 4, so 7, 11, 15. Or it could be that the sequence isn't changing by the same amount each time, but it's changing in a different way. For example, here, I can see the sequence is going down because it's dividing by 10 each time. Or, again, it might be a pattern of a sequence in dots, for example, and you working out how to continue that pattern. Have a go at these 3 sequence questions. Pause the video. So for the first question, you need to recognise, of course, first of all, the gap between -6 and 15 is a gap of 21. And then, of course, it's crucial to realise that's 1, 2, 3 jumps to get there. Each jump must be a jump of 7. 21 divided by 3, 7. So 1, 8, and I now must be right, because for the last one, if I add a 7, I do get to 15. The second sequence, it's important that you realise that the gap between the numbers aren't the same. The gap between 32 and 8 is not the same as the gap as that between 8 and 2. So we need to look for a different pattern than an addition or a subtraction. In this case, it's actually, of course, halving. You can see that 8 is a quarter of 32 and 2 is a quarter of 8, and halfway, of course, between that is the halves. There we go. And for the last one, I hope you hadn't just taken off 7 after 7 after 7, but instead thought about, well, what large chunk of 7 could I take off? I think if you take off 50 lots of 7, that'll be 350. And if you take that away from the 382, that of course will leave you with 32. And then I could take off 4 7s, and that's 28, which of course will mean that somewhere in that sequence the number 4 will appear, and then I just need to take away another 7, and that's going to get me to -3, and another one, -10. The next thing I want to have a look at is fractions in contexts, or specifically fractions when they're used with measures. So, say for example I'm looking at 1 3/4 hours, and want to know how many minutes that is. Of course, I know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. 3/4 of an hour, of course, I'm finding there 3/4 of 60, which is 45. So I'd have to do 45, add the 60 to get my 105 minutes. 3/5 of a kilogram. Now again here, I'm looking for the quantity. Well, it's out of 1,000, 3/5 of 1,000. And of course I just need to divide 1,000 by 5, the denominator, to find 1/5, 200. So 3/5 will be 600 grams. Now we're going to have a go at some questions that use fractions within measures. Okay, so to apply this, we'll have a go at this question here. Pause the video and have a go. So the first job is to simplify all that information that we have. I'm aiming for 20 hours of tuition, so 20 times 60 will tell me how many minutes I'm after of tuition. And then let's see if we can get the 2 1/4 hours into minutes. So of course 2 hours is 120, quarter is 15, so that's 135 minutes a session. So how many 135s in 1,200? Well, I started by going 135. If I had 10 of those sessions, that would get me 1,350 minutes, and then I thought, well, from here I'm going to just adjust by going down. So 135 times 9 must be 135 less than 1,350. 1215. Now, I know if I only had 8 lessons, that wouldn't be enough time to pass the course, because I need at least 1200 minutes. So the key thing then is to know that the question asks how many lessons will I need to attend. I would need to attend 9 lessons. And finally, angle. There's some basics, of course, to remember with angle. If we're looking at going around a circle, that's an angle of 360 degrees. So I can see that my 3 angles here, they've got to add up to 360. Whereas if I'm looking at a straight line, you can see I'm making a shape here almost like a protractor. Those 2 angles must add up to 180. Of course, angles inside a triangle, this one, and this one, always add up to 180 degrees. And finally, we know that when straight lines cross, the opposite angles, like this one and this one, are actually equal. So that means equally that this angle and this angle must be the same. We'll use these basic facts to answer some angle questions. We're going to have a go at these angle questions next. Pause the video. Okay, so for the first one, I need to recognise that a full turn is 360 degrees, and I have a 90 degree angle there. I've got those two 50 degree angles, which of course makes 190 degrees, so 360. If I take away the 190 degrees, that'll leave me angle P, which has got to be 170 degrees. Of course, the obtuse angles, the ones that are between 90 and 180 degrees, are A and D. And then looking for angle A, I would think, well, my last step would be, if I know this angle here, that will be the same as angle A. So if I can figure that out, then I can get there. Now, of course, in this triangle here, well, I know angle B is 12. I actually know that this angle is 30 because it's the same as angle C, as explained before. So if I add those two angles in the triangle, that comes to 42 degrees. So 180, take away that 42 degrees, will leave me 138 degrees, which will be the value of this angle here, and therefore also of angle A. Now we're going to finish with one of my favourite angle questions, which is looking at the degrees between the hands on a clock at different times. So obviously you'll know that a full turn around a clock is 360 degrees, and obviously that 360 degrees is split into 12 sections. So I should imagine you'll be able to work out the size in angle terms of each hour section. Now, of course, it's straightforward working out the angle of the hands of a clock on an hour mark. So say, for example, if it was 5 o'clock, I could just work out, well, the angle is these 5 sections here. However, it gets more difficult when I'm looking at, say, the angle between the hands at 1/4 past, because obviously the minute hands moved from the 12 to the 3, so that's moved, well, you could work out how many degrees. But the thing you also need to recognise is this hour hand has moved slightly. In fact, it's moved 1/4 of the way from 5 to 6. So I'd have to find what that angle would be as well at that time. So your task is to work out this angle of the hand between the two hands of a clock at 20 past 8. Pause the video and have a go. Well, the more straightforward bit of the working out is the hours here. So that hour, that one, this one, and this one here are all 30-degree sections, 4 30-degree sections. So that is 120 degrees. The thing that is more difficult is this degree here. How can I work out that bit there? Now, at 20 past, 20, of course, is 1/3 of an hour. It's 1/3 of 60. So that tells me this hour hand must have moved 1/3 of the distance between 8 and 9. That's essentially 1/3 of 30. So that little bit there must be 10 degrees, meaning the total angle must be 130 degrees. Great stuff, and we'll look forward to seeing you at 8:55 on Monday morning back in the classroom.